Welcome to the Forever and Ever podcast. I'm your host, Homer Hargrove, and today we're going to be talking about understanding the spaghetti minds, and we're going to be diving into this fun and insightful thought about how some of our minds are like spaghetti. Last week, we talked about how some of us are waffle minds, but you spaghetti minds get to be the part of our conversation today. And you're the one that is connecting everything into these webs of thoughts and feelings. And in this episode, it's really just for you. It's going to be us unpacking what it means to have this interconnected spaghetti mind and how it affects our communication, how it embraces and how embracing this style can bring richness to our relationships. So let's start off with our first point, which is, what is the spaghetti mind? And I want you to just simply picture a plate of spaghetti. And even when you get one little fork of spaghetti, all these noodles come up with it. Every strand is connected, tangled, intertwined, and that's kind of like how a spaghetti mind works. Our thoughts, our emotions, our experiences are all linked together into one continuous flow. People with spaghetti minds will often jump from like one topic to another in conversation, not because they're distracted, not because they have the ADD, it's because everything feels connected to them. For example, a single memory might remind them of another thought, which leads to an emotion. And before you know it, this conversation has covered 5 different topics. You can see how spaghetti minds approach life in more of like this holistic way. That's everything is connected. They don't compartmentalize their thoughts, but they see the big picture and how everything relates. And this can make conversations feel emotionally rich. They can feel insightful, but it can also feel overwhelming for someone who processes things differently. And I want us to really grasp that just like with waffle minds, there's strengths in areas that we have to learn how to communicate. So it is with spaghetti minds. So let's talk about some of those strengths for the spaghetti minds. While spaghetti minds can seem scattered to some people, they bring these incredible strengths to a relationship. First, they're great at making these emotional connections because they see everything as related. They're able to connect these dots that others might miss. And this often leads to these deeper and more meaningful conversations. For example, someone with a spaghetti mind might talk about a recent conflict, then connect it to a past experience, and ultimately use that connection to understand their partner better. It's this powerful skill for fostering this like more emotional intimacy. And second, spaghetti minds are naturally empathetic, meaning that they have this ability to see this interconnectedness of situations that allows them to step into other people's shoes more easily. They're great at understanding how different factors influence emotions and reactions, which makes them usually more compassionate partners. Now, with that being said, I want you to consider like a common situation of where these kinds of conflicts might happen in spaghetti mind and waffle mind, and how these conflicts might arise. Maybe you start, y'all end up having a disagreement about one thing that happened today, and the waffle mind is set on this specific problem of the day and trying to rationalize it and trying to make it this understanding explanation of before and after this single event today. While spaghetti mind has already connected it to, well, last month you said this, and with that in mind, now you say this, and it makes me feel like this because 3 years ago my ex had said this. And all of a sudden, you have this huge like train of events that happen where waffle mind is like, that has nothing to do with any of this. But the reality is that for them it does. And being able to that's a scenario where it might feel like, oh, well, this just made this, molehill fight turn into a mountain. I want you to consider the idea of like what it's like parenting. For a waffle mind, when it comes to parenting, it's like, okay, we're going to do this activity today. And if you don't listen, this will happen, kids. While a spaghetti mind will help bring more of like this connectiveness to it, to where it feels like everyone in the family is connected during the family outing that y'all had for the day. They help bring this sense of holistic connection with y'all's relationships, and y'all are able to balance each other out. Now, let's talk about some challenges that come with a spaghetti mind in relationships. Just with any strengths, there are also challenges too. One common challenge is that spaghetti mind can sometimes overwhelm their partners. If your partner has that compartmentalized waffle mind, then they might struggle to keep up with those conversation jumps. They might struggle to keep up with the emotional jumps. In the scenario I just gave, it's hard for them to feel something that happened X amount of months or years ago. They're in this compartmentalized moment of today, right now. And it can sometimes feel like too much all at once. And another challenge is that spaghetti minds might struggle to let go of certain emotions or thoughts because they feel like it's too connected, and it can feel hard to isolate one issue and resolve it without bringing in all these other related feelings. This can make a conflict resolution feel more complicated. In the scenario that I gave earlier, this idea of bringing a month and years back into an argument that happened today, there's some times where it's totally valid and it completely fits and does bring better understanding of the situation. But there's other times where not that your emotions aren't valid, but it's not fair to bring up something that happened way back when to the current situation and expect your partner to feel the exact same way about it. There's always times where we have to have like this give and take, this somewhat of a compromise where, again, it doesn't mean that our feelings aren't valid, but we also have to imagine that it's not necessarily fair to hold our waffle-minded partner to the same feelings that we have. In the same way, our waffle-minded people, we have to understand it's not fair for us to expect a person to not feel something that they feel. So, there's so many times where a disagreement like this, say from a spaghetti-minded partner, might bring up past issues, unrelated emotions, not to attack, but because those feelings feel tied to the current problem. And to the partner, though, this might come across as bringing up old stuff or being unfocused to creating a resolution for right now. So let's talk about how to embrace and support spaghetti minds. First, if you're a spaghetti-minded partner, practice some self-awareness. Notice that when you're jumping between topics, and check in with your partner. Say something like, I know I'm jumping around a bit, but these thoughts feel connected to me. Just vocalize it. And this will help you and your partner stay engaged without feeling overwhelmed. That way you're able to, sometimes you just want to voice what you're feeling. You're not necessarily expecting your partner to feel that too, but you want them to understand where you're coming from. Just vocalize that. Second, if your partner has a spaghetti mind, be patient and curious. I'm talking to you, waffle-minded people. Instead of just shutting down and feeling so frustrated to where you just want to exit the conversation and you feel like it's not getting anywhere, so you just want to close it down, try asking, can you help me to better understand how these thoughts connect for you? Or simply try to show some empathy, create some space for your partner to express the emotions that they're feeling. Instead of just declaring them invalid, try to understand what they're feeling and where they're coming from. Finally, both partners can work together and find this balance. Spaghetti minds thrive when they feel heard, and their partners appreciate structure. So during a conflict, try to agree to focus on one issue at a time, but make space for emotional connections after the main issue is resolved. To have just a sense of reasonability with one another and understanding that you guys both just think different. Not one is right and one is wrong, but you guys are both seeing and feeling different about the same thing. So let's look at some takeaway for today. The key takeaway for this is spaghetti minds bring emotional richness and connection to a relationship. While their style might feel a little overwhelming at times, it's also this beautiful gift that can deepen intimacy and empathy. With patience, with communication, with mutual understanding, both partners can create this balance that allows this unique way of thinking to shine. And, before you start thinking, oh, well, no, my spouse is like this. I wish I didn't have to deal with this. Everyone else is normal except for them. I want you to understand that every marriage has these kinds of psychological differences in emotional and mental processing differences. So it's not that you have this unique, one of a kind problem or conflict that y'all can't overcome. In a sense, like y'all aren't special. We all have these kinds of conflicts, and it's about us trying to mature and grow and learn how to better communicate with one another. I'm a waffle mind. My wife is a spaghetti mind. There's been plenty of times where our single conflict escalated because we're both trying to think about it our own way, whether it was her being a spaghetti mind and connecting all these different things, or me being a waffle mind and thinking that no, step 1, 2, 3. And if once we have this sense of reasonability and understanding and empathy for how we think differently, that's when we're actually able to make so much quicker bridges to conflict rather than keeping these big wedges apart. That being said, before we end today, I want to say thank you for listening to today's episode. If you recognize that yourself or your partner's is a spaghetti-minded person, I'd love to hear about it in our free Facebook group. Be sure to share parts of your story in our Facebook group. If you haven't joined yet, just message me and I'll send you the link to join our Facebook group. It's a great space for us to be able to share our experiences and learn from others. Also, if you're ready to dive deeper into these insights and you haven't already, grab a copy of my book, Forever and Ever, where it is packed with practical tools for navigating these differences and building stronger connection. So until next time, have a great life.